iPhone attendant. Your audio is on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Wiser. We bring you inspiring sessions from industry experts or professionals to inspire, motivate young adults. Darren Clark will be joining us today. Darren Clark is the director of the Global Dyslexia Group. And while everybody joins us, and I formally introduce him, I request you all to be patient before we start. I promise you a fantastic, inspiring 1-hour session, which will take you on a journey like never before. We will hear the stories of dyslexia, which is actually a superpower and not a disability. And Darren Clark will tell about his own personal journey. And today he is the director of the Global Dyslexia Group in London. Thank you all for joining Amwiser today. We will be starting. We're a couple of minutes away from session. I appreciate that you've joined in early so that we start on time. Today we're going to have with us Mr. Darren Clark. He is the director of the Global Dyslexia Group based in London, and he is going to talk on the stories of dyslexia. I'm not sure how many of you have the experience of dealing with dyslexia or understand it, but a large number of the percentage of the world today has some form of dyslexia. It's actually a wrong label, and I personally feel all of us have some learning disability, if we can call it, in some form or the other. And it's just about what we put behind us and do at what we really excel. And that's really what it is. It's helping people find what they're really good at and not focusing on what it is that you're not good at. That's what it is really about. And that's what we really need to do, whether we have it on our own, whether we're guiding, or we have a family member who has it, or a friend or a colleague at work has it. And that's what we really need to do. So Darren here today is going to speak to us about stories of dyslexia, and it's going to be an inspiring session. I'm personally looking forward to this one particular session, and I'm so glad that Darren agreed to take this session. So there we have him. Darren, we're still a couple of minutes away. I think let more people join in. I have with us today Chandni Savlani. She's our co-host.
Hi, Darren. Great to connect with you. Really looking forward to this.
Likewise, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
I think a lot of this work is also really based on, empathy and being able to, because not everyone can be in the same shoes literally, but how can we try and open our eyes a little bit and design a more inclusive world? And I think that's the crux. Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to you telling us how we can do that better.
Bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you again, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, I think we're just about there and people are joining in. Thank you all for joining. So these sessions are brought to you by AmWiser, where our objective is for young adults to learn by experience. There is no restriction for anybody to join, as we believe that all kinds of knowledge is meant to be accessible to all. And we look forward to any suggestions, etc., that we have on these kind of sessions, so that we can have people like Darren speak to everybody here today across the country. So yes, Darren, we're, I think, about ready to start in a minute or so. Yes, so I've shared my screen. Darren, you'll be able to share your screen and take us through your journey.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So good morning, everyone, and thank you again for the opportunity to come and speak to you all. I'm over in the UK, that's where I'm based. So what I wanted to share with you today was that dyslexia isn't just a local issue, problem, whatever it is you think of dyslexia. It's a global thing. And one of the amazing things that we've been able to do together is unite each other on a global front. And it's kind of been my passion, my mission, especially over the past 18 months. And what I thought I'd be able to do is kind of just share this with you, my story, my journey, and just give you kind of an insight into what I've been doing since I found out I had dyslexia, and before that as well. Okay, so I'm going to this is kind of with dyslexia, for me, I see everything in pictures. Everything is visual for me. So I remember everything. If I walked into a room and I saw someone with a red tie on or a blue tie, I would remember the tie as opposed to I would remember the name. So I would relate pictures or objects to people. Now, this is not saying that every person with dyslexia learns the same, and you'll probably notice that there's such a huge scale within dyslexia that not one person's dyslexia is the same. So if you think to yourself that you're on your own within this dyslexia world, you're not. It can sometimes feel a bit alienated, a bit isolated, a bit in the sense that you don't belong in certain jobs or certain situations. And trust me, we've all been through this kind of element as well. So guys, I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint, and what it's going to do is kind of my story, and then what we'll do, we'll break after that in the sense of we'll go to kind of a Q&A. And guys, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you've got any questions, I know we've got some questions that are set anyway, but afterwards it'd be great to get a conversation going and to see how best I can serve and support you on this one. So just bear with me 1 second.
Before that, Darren, if you can just take a minute and if I can introduce Hugh.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, absolutely.
Darren, he's the co-founder of Spotless Group and the Global Dyslexia Group. He's also been the Male Entrepreneur of the Year 2019. He's an international speaker, the ambassador for the British Dyslexia Association and the Dyslexia Kenya, the global partner for the International Dyslexia Association. Darren Clark is a serial entrepreneur based in Wiltshire, UK, who is an accomplished international speaker and has spoken to thousands of people all over the globe, inspiring them with his incredible story. Whether you're looking to motivate a team or wow people at a conference or an event, Darren fits the bill. His story is unique, despite a difficult childhood of being a victim of vandals, criminals, and bullies, and unable to complete a significant schooling due to an undiagnosed dyslexia. Darren today will share how he rose from this adversity and the stereotyping of the estate that he grew up in to become a successful serial entrepreneur who is now known worldwide for his charitable work and business. Darren will also share with us today his journey of undiagnosed dyslexia until he was 37 years old, meant that he had to work even harder within his career and business. How due to this, he fought constant stress and bouts of depression, but determination and perseverance continues to drive him forward in his life and make a difference of others suffering from dyslexia all over today. So please join me in welcoming Darren Clark, and it's my personal pleasure and privilege to have him here today. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the very warm welcome. I really do appreciate everyone that's on here and everyone that will watch it in future events as well. So if you've just joined us, thank you so much again for the introduction. So I'm going to share with you my journey, my kind of dyslexia journey. It's kind of it's kind of raw in a way because it kind of gives you an insight that that yes, you may have struggles, but there are ways and means that we can kind of push through, and if we can kind of unite and support each other within this, you can achieve some amazing things. So it'd be great to kind of start off where it all began. So childhood for me wasn't easy. I was born in the UK. I was born on a very large, we call it kind of a council estate. This is where kind of like social housing, basically. So my dad, he fell ill when I was about 10, 11 years old. So what basically happened was my mother then gave up work and then became the carer for my dad. So at the age of kind of 10, 11, I never really had, although my parents, I absolutely loved my parents to pieces, they're incredibly supportive, and I never had that kind of that work role model, that work role model inside me. So it was always kind of this mindset of, you know, people say, where'd you get your work ethic from? And I don't know, I just think it's just kind of ingrained into me. So the area that I grew up in was quite tough. There was we got broken into, our house got broken into about 11 times during my childhood. You'd think after the 10th time there wouldn't be anything else to steal, but clearly the area that I grew up in was quite tough. My house at the time, my parents started doing, this isn't a reflection of my house on the right hand side. This is just to kind of share with you the bouts of, so my parents gave up work through ill health, and then they started doing car boot sales, which was basically kind of little sales in local areas. And what would happen is, although the house wouldn't be as messy as this, what would happen is all the stock that my parents would purchase that they didn't sell would come back to the house, and it would start filling up the rooms. So with my dyslexia and my ADHD, I always feel a kind of, if you get kind of a bit suffocated sometimes, that you need to be free, you need to kind of move around a lot, you need to have a lot of space around you. And I didn't realize how much of an impact the kind of the hoarding element was impacting me as a child. So it was tough in the areas that I grew up. Like I said, there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of bullying. I was bullied a hell of a lot as a child from the outsides. And I think because there was a lot of gang culture at the time, and it was a kind of, we make these decisions in life where we can go one way or we can make one decision. And I'm not saying every decision that we make is bad, but I always was ingrained by my parents to not get into gangs and not, steal things or anything else like this. So I was always kind of a dreamer, and I was always down the straight road, which I'm really, really thankful that my parents installed that into me with everything that was going around and all the chaos. So I had that element at home. We lived in a 2-bedroom flat with my mum, dad, and my 2 brothers. So me and my 2 brothers shared one room. My parents shared the other room. So it was quite tough. And like I said, with the breakings over a certain amount of years, that became quite tough. So you would then think, if you've got the home life that's a little bit disruptive, I'd say, say the least, you expect your school to have some reprieve. There needs to be something to give you, some sort of release. And again, this was undiagnosed dyslexia. This was, strong dyslexia, ADHD. Now, I went to school, primary school, which was, the first 10 years of school. Really, really loved it, purely because you were able to kind of be creative, and there wasn't a lot of pressure on exams and, tests. But the minute that I went to secondary school, this is where the problems lie. And it was on the very first day, actually. It was the very first day you get put into an assembly, and you're told, you're kind of picked out really to do a test, and then you're decided which classroom you're going to be going in. Now, I went to school with lots of different of my friends in the area, and we all sat in this assembly. And it was the very first day that I knew that the separation started. And this was purely because they started calling out everyone else's names through the results that they got on the test that they did to put them in the classrooms. And then more or less from day one, I was put into somewhere like this on the left-hand side. This is a thing called the unit. Now, it's not a special police force. It's actually a porter cabin, which was set up in the middle of a field, in the school playing field. And it was where they would put children where they didn't really know what to do with. Now, I always found this, looking back on it, really quite horrendous, because when they say they don't really know what to do with them, it's purely on the basis that they don't know, sometimes they might think that they're trouble children, or they're disruptive, or they can't answer. For me, school, I was always inquisitive. I am now. I wake up like a sponge every single day, wanting to learn something. So in class, when they were trying to teach me everything, I would always put my hand up and I'd ask again and again and again and again, purely because it would just, and I think it would just frustrate the teachers, because I didn't really know what to do, how to deal with me. So to give you an idea, guys, I spent 5 years of my secondary school in a unit similar to this, basically on a day-to-day basis, being given activities like colouring in, sketching, drawing, any activity they can do to just kind of keep me busy. So subsequently, this over here on the right-hand side was the school that I went to. And it was quite a rough, hard school. And you can imagine school life is very tricky anyway, because you're still trying to grow into yourself. You're still trying to identify who you are. And then again, the separation element was there purely because they didn't know what to do. So I left school without a single qualification. They didn't allow me to sit any exams, and that's purely because their words were it would be a waste of paper. Now, when you look back on these things, gladly, I know the school system at the moment is changing and they're doing incredible work with it. But back then, it was really felt like the school system had failed me in those elements. So I kind of left school. These were kind of the words that were kind of, coming around. We spend a lot of the time as dyslexics in our own head, and we start thinking about, our confidence and what people think, and can we do something, and are we intelligent, are we stupid, all these different words. So these kind of words were going around in my head. I found everything challenging. I felt like I was different. I felt, worried, stupid, sad. However, there was a couple of words in there: humor and creative. Now, I think humor for me, the reason why I can tell these stories and look back on the situations that I was in before and say them, although they were, some of them were quite horrific, I can still say them in a kind of a quip way, purely because the way I see things, I see everything is a positive. And I think that's a great way to start seeing things. I'm not saying that you don't own what you went through or what you saw or what you felt. But I think if you can kind of flip it every now and again to try and see some sort of positive within it, or what you've learned from that experience, then it does help you going forward. And it's definitely helped me before. So my humor and my creativity has definitely moved me forward. So I left school without any qualifications. And I knew then that the job market was going to be very, very difficult to enter when you can't put any qualifications on an application form. But this didn't scare me. This excited me. It excited me because for the first time ever, I had a choice. I had a choice of what job I could go to, what career I could take, what path I could go. I didn't realize at the time how difficult it would be, but I for once had a choice. I didn't have to just go to school in a porter cabin, being given a colouring in book, and then the bell would go and I would leave. So what did I do? I think I applied for about 17, 18 different jobs. I would just cycle around the area on my BMX, going to every single shop. I went into funeral parlors. I went into banks. I borrowed my dad's suit to walk into a bank that was about 5 sizes too big for me, and was asking for a job there. I didn't get the job. I went into a floristry. Any place that was somewhere for work, I just went in so keen. I said, look, can I have a job? Can I have a job? So I'd get all these application forms back, and I would be sat there, and that was when it was the paper form, application form. And I think to myself, oh goodness, this is very difficult to fill out. So my mum at the time, she would help me fill out all these different application forms for all these different jobs. And then I would rush down, give the application form, and await the interview. I got something like 17 declines. Okay. And these were all kind of just small jobs, part-time jobs, weekend jobs. This wasn't college, university or anything. This was just kind of any job. I just knew once I got a job, I could work my way up the career ladder. So I always remember I went into Sainsbury's. I was 17 years old, and my mum had just helped me fill out this application form. And just as I was walking in, I took a glance at the application form. And in the top right-hand box, there was always this part where you'd have to put your exam results. So you would put English and then your grade, humanities, science, PE, whatever the grade was. Now, every single time I put that application form in, I would leave that box blank because there was nothing to put in that box. But I knew then, this kind of epiphany, I knew that was stopping me getting a position. So I'm not saying that you should lie, definitely not. I'm not encouraging it. But one thing as a dyslexic, the creativity and, pardon the pun, thinking out of the box really worked for me. So I grabbed a pen, I sat on the side, on the path, and I started scribbling down what grades I think I would have got if I would have passed some of the exams. And I didn't want to give myself A's, B's, and C's. I didn't want to be too good. So I just wrote a few things in. So this was the problem. My mum had written the application form in one color of pen. I wrote it in a different, and you can tell that I'd written it in because the handwriting was, wasn't as good as what my mum had done. But I will never know whether that box that I filled in got me the job or not. But it started this journey in my mind of thinking, okay, so if I see a problem, how can I get around it? And I'm not saying we have to lie and do all these different things as well. But the great thing about dyslexic people is that we can really kind of, we can solve so many problems if we just think to ourselves, it's not just A and B, it could be A, C, then B. So moving forward, got my my position within Sainsbury's. I loved retail. I started working there 12 hours a week, just pushing trolleys. Any overtime that they could have, I would grab. And this is the other thing about goals as well. I would always have massive goals, huge goals. Like if I showed you my iPad with the goals in there, you would probably think this guy's mad. Why would he write these goals? But they're unbelievable goals. But I think they're achievable. But they're a long way off. And then you can have smaller goals. So, ones that are really achievable, because you need the achievable ones to give you the encouragement to keep going. We can all say, one of my goals is to meet Richard Branson. Okay. Now I could say I want to meet Richard Branson. I know how I'm going to meet Richard Branson. It's going to be through the dyslexia work. It's going to be through it. But if I wake up every day and I think to myself, I've not met him yet, I can get down there and I can start thinking, oh, so have those smaller goals and have those unrealistic goals as well. People call them unrealistic. We just call them, they're just going to take a little bit more work to go on there. So retail, I worked really, really hard. I got to any position that they had. So I wanted to go from trolleys. I then wanted to go in stores to work on the tills. Then I wanted to go in and work on the fruit and veg department, and then so on and so on and so on. Throughout my 10, 12 years, I managed to get all the way up to regional manager for one of the top retailers. I was on I think I was managing about 56 stores at that time. This was all with undiagnosed dyslexia. Okay, I always felt like I was going to be found out. The struggle to get from every single promotion position was really tough, purely because if you had presentations and PowerPoints and everything to do, I would do 5 or 6 of them just in case they wanted something else, because of that fear of thinking to myself, I don't want to walk up to the board and start writing. I wanted to kind of have everything prepped. And I think this is where we get a bit exhausted, because we start thinking, oh my goodness, what if they see me do that? What would they think of me? So I got to a very high position within the retail. I worked incredibly hard for say 10, 12 years, got to a fantastic salary, got to a really kind of good prestige position and title, whatever it is that they put on you. But for me, it's all about learning. It's all about learning a new skill, meeting a new person. What can I learn? And I got to a stage within retail that I couldn't go any further. I couldn't go any further without any qualifications, because once you get to that level and you get to the next level, they definitely want, at least some GCSEs or a degree or a master's or something in there. And to be perfectly honest, I got to a level where I started to not enjoy the job anymore, because it just became so stressful. And it wasn't like grafting every day, putting stuff out and speaking to people. It was more political in the way of, writing and facts and figures. So I got to that position, and then what kind of happened throughout all of this is I kind of took a time to stop and reflect. And this is where I started to kind of look back on my childhood, the job that I was in, and what I was always trying to find. I was always trying to prove myself to someone. I was always thinking to myself, but if I get that position, then I'll get that credibility, or someone might take me seriously, or this, all these thoughts would go through my mind. And I didn't realize how much anxiety was building up inside of me. I mean, I knew I would go to meetings with hundreds of people, and I'd start feeling, the anxiety kicking in, but I would always work through that. And it wasn't until I started thinking to myself, this has to be kind of seen to. I have to do something about it. I did have bouts of depression through the age of from like 18 up until about 26, and I think this was because of the home life and the school and these. So I did go to the doctor. I worked on a program with them. but it was very, very difficult. And it did feel at the time a little bit shameful, I guess, because I didn't want to tell anyone. It was almost like Pandora's box. It was something else I put in there. I didn't want to tell people about my dyslexia because I didn't know about the dyslexia. I didn't want to tell people about the depression. I didn't want to. So when you're holding all this in, it can be really, really exhausted. And I was working, 18, 90, 95 hours a week. It became really, really exhausting. So a couple of things that we're doing within our global dyslexia group is spreading more awareness around dyslexia. And what I wanted to share with you guys, and some of you may, if you have dyslexia, may relate to this, may not, but it would really, really help to understand. So daily tasks for me are really tricky. So over here on the left-hand side, this is just an example of if I was to pick a microwave meal off of, I wouldn't have a microwave meal every day, but if I was to pick a microwave meal off the side, over here on the left-hand side, the instructions and the words would be really, really difficult. They would be moving around. When I get tired and stressed and after a long day, my dyslexia, words start moving around. Okay, the visual side of my dyslexia starts kicking in and it becomes really, really difficult to focus. It's almost like you're kind of like a cat chasing, the red dot on the screen. Subsequently, this was just an example. This was a microwave meal. I, put the words in on the side, and then on the right-hand side, this is me texting my brother, because again, some font I can read, some font I can't read. This is me just texting my brother about cooking instructions and how long should I have it in there. This over here is just an electricity bill. Again, when they come through the door, so much writing, so much reading that you have to do and what to focus on and what not to focus on. So you can imagine that on a day-to-day basis, simple things like getting on a bus, a plane, driving, traffic, opening letters, reading instructions, anything like this can become quite overwhelming and quite exhausting. So which means by the end of the day, you're kind of just so exhausted by it. So all of this was happening with my undiagnosed dyslexia. And then at the age of 37, I had, I'd left my company, my corporate job to start my own business, which I'll go on to shortly. And then one story changed. Now we'll all kind of have this element of when did you find out you were dyslexic? When did you find out this happened? For me, it was the age of 37. I was listening to a news channel, and there was a lady on there, and she said that she opened up a floristry business, and she's dyslexic, and she sees everything in pictures, and she couldn't name what flowers she puts into the bouquets, but she could tell you the smell, she could tell you the colors, she could tell you this, and she kept saying dyslexic. Then she started saying some of the things that she finds a struggle on a day-to-day basis. And it was like one of those moments that it clicked. So I then found out how to spell dyslexia because it's a very tricky word. I Googled it, and then I started looking at, took an online test for dyslexia, and it came out that I was heavily dyslexic. And then I thought to myself, I'm going to go and see if I am dyslexic, because I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know what the word was at that point in time. I found out that I was heavily dyslexic and have ADHD. So I then thought to myself, I'm not going to let this kind of just, it helped in a way because I thought to myself, I'm going to stop beating myself up about the things that I got wrong in life and struggled with. But I didn't really kind of think too much about it. I just thought, okay, tick box, it's done. But then I started thinking to myself, how do I see it as a superpower? How can I take my dyslexia that I've always seen I've always seen the negative element to it. I've always seen that dyslexia just seems to be a problem with reading or my concentration, or I can't sit still, or I can't do this. But when I flip it around and see what I've actually been able to achieve within my school life and my corporate career, my work life, if you flip it around like a coin, you see the other side of it, you start to believe in yourself and you think, my goodness, how much have you actually achieved with all these barriers in front of you? So when we mentioned about setting up our own businesses, I left a very secure job. I then set up my first ever business, and it was a cleaning business, and it was literally just knocking on doors, asking if I can clean homes. Okay, so it was a domestic cleaner. That was it. It wasn't anything glamorous. It wasn't the, glamorous in the sense of a hairdresser or, all these different careers and stuff. I just wanted to kind of start something. I knew that if I could graft, in the sense, if I could work hard, I could grow. So as I started as a trolley boy, working my way up to regional manager, I knew if I started as a cleaner, I could grow that company and start employing staff. So we created lots of different companies. I haven't got all the companies on here that we've created in the past. Some have worked really well. Some we've closed. Some of them we've had successes. Some we've not. But this is all learning. So we grew our domestic cleaning. So we were cleaning about 1,000 homes a week off of that one. Our commercial cleaning, we've employed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of staff over the years. We created a training company. And we've now created our global dyslexia group. We've created a media company and all these other different companies that we've done. But it sounds really good, like, oh, we created this company. But every single thing that we've done, we've learned from, okay? And we've connected with people that are like-minded. And we've always had that thought pattern of, well, why not? Okay, let's just do it. Why not? Okay, so we created those. So what I also wanted to do was, I'm a big believer in giving back. Okay, I'm a massive believer in helping someone else. If I learn something and it's a skill and it will help someone else, I'll pass that on. Okay, I'll pass it on to someone who will hopefully be able to do something with that. And in the hope, they'll then pass that on to someone else. So throughout all of this, I was speaking to, I mean, it's now around sort of 90,000 pupils since I've done this slide. So I've been speaking at schools, colleges, universities, across the globe now that we've been doing. The talk started with entrepreneurship and business. And then when I started to come into my own about dyslexia, I started talking about dyslexia and how it can help, people to start thinking, believing in themselves. I then did the school side of it. And then I started moving into the business element. Now, back around kind of 6-7 years ago, whenever I was asking if I could speak at one of these events, I would say, could I speak about dyslexia? And a lot of the people, organizers who were amazing, they would say, well, actually, I'd rather you talked about business and entrepreneurship, because not many people will come and sit and listen to about dyslexia. And I said, well, but dyslexia is me. The reason I've created these businesses is because dyslexia, it's because of my dyslexia. And one organization gave me the opportunity to start speaking at one. I started speaking about dyslexia, and then it started rolling out. So even back like 6-7 years ago, business events wouldn't want someone to start speaking at them. And then I thought to myself, okay, so I've done the schools, okay, even though I still work with schools and still work with business and organizations. How can I then take this to a global level? How can I help people on a bigger scale? And do people need to be helped? Because at this time I was only kind of working in the UK. So my partner and we put together an email. We went onto the International Dyslexia Association's global platform, and we found 76 different organizations that are all members of this organization. So it's like the biggest kind of global platform. And then we put together an email. Okay, so we put this together an email campaign, and it literally said, "Good evening, hope your email finds you well. I'm the co-founder of one of these businesses." And then it was, "How can I help your organization?" Now, I didn't want any money. I didn't want anything from them. Now, this is difficult because when someone offers you something for free, it's always this catch. You think, okay, so what is it? Okay, but this was genuinely just, how can I help your organization? And this was the best email campaign that I'd ever done. I put it out to 76 different organizations. Not all of them came back. Some of them come back with, no, it's okay. We don't need any help. But who did come back was phenomenal. So we had, at the time, the British Dyslexia Association came back. It was Helen Bowden at the time. And I went up there and I became, asked if I can help the organization. I became the one of their ambassadors. And then Phyllis and Nancy from, some of you know, from Rare Gem Talent School in Kenya, they came back, and within a couple of weeks of emailing, we put on an event in Rare Gem Talent School, flew over there, did this event to 200-300 students and parents and teachers to raise awareness for dyslexia. And I'll just give you some idea where this email kind of took me. And this sometimes is just how you, if you can reach out to someone and offer some help. And even if you can't, I'm not saying you have to jump on a plane. I know it's very difficult at the moment, but sometimes it's just a case of just speaking to someone and see how they can help you and you can help them. So over here on the left, this was me in Rare Gem Talent School. I then became an ambassador for the Dyslexia Foundation in Bali. Off of the back of the Kenya trip, we then did a tour of Malawi, where we went to Blantyre and Lilongwe, and we traveled around putting on events to raise awareness in Malawi. Malawi is very, in the sense of dyslexia, is really kind of unheard of there. So it was a really kind of forthcoming, fantastic event. And this was all done in a year. Okay, this bit here was all done in a year. So this up here on the top left is me speaking at the event. These are the amazing students at Rare Gem Talent School. Again, guys, ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. While I was over in Kenya, I asked if I could appear on Kenyan TV. Now, I didn't even know what if there was Kenyan TV, as in, you know, what programs would suit with dyslexia. And at the time, Phyllis, who is a phenomenal connector, she then said, yep, we can get you on their main daytime TV. So while I was over there, the bottom picture, I appeared on Kenyan TV, which was phenomenal. The middle is myself at the Gala Ball with Anthea Turner. We've done training. We've been to the Houses of Parliament several times to talk about dyslexia. And over here on the right-hand side, guys, this is me. We're having a documentary made. It's being put on the back burner at the moment because of this current global pandemic. But this should be going live next year, where we'll be doing decoding dyslexia on a global level. The work that I've done within the schools, I've currently just finished writing a children's book. We're going to have the first African Dyslexic Conference, spoken at the Global Dyslexia Show. Again, we flew out to America. Again, if you don't ask, you don't get. I flew out to America to their annual conference, not having an opportunity to speak. There wasn't any speaking opportunities there because the speaking opportunities were gone. But if you have that belief in your head, I flew over there for a 4-day conference thinking to myself that I'm going to speak, I'm going to speak, I'm going to speak. And when I got over there on day 1, I think it was, a lady, sadly, who was unable to fly over for the conference, had a speaking slot, and there was one free. And because I've been asking everyone if I could speak, I was the first person they asked. And this is me on the stage at the global conference. So it's now our mission to change attitudes surrounding dyslexia and to make sure that others didn't suffer the way that I did. We are only just scratching the surface in what we're trying to achieve within dyslexia. It's only been kind of the past, like I said, the past kind of 15 months that we've really kind of pushed forward with the dyslexia side of it. But what I wanted to give you an insight is that I suffer with dyslexia on a daily basis. I find it difficult to read. I find it difficult to write. I find it difficult to concentrate, to sit still. And I do struggle on a daily basis. But I have this absolute this intention to help others. And if you have that intention to help others, then I guarantee that people will start helping you back. So I hope that gives you some insight into me, into my kind of backstory. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. And thank you so much indeed for listening to me.
No, thank you so much, Darren. This is really wonderful. I'm sure a lot of the viewers and everyone here will be relating to your story. Having dyslexia is actually like learning on difficult mode. And so would you think people with dyslexia have more power than people without it?
I get it in the sense, I think because the way that our brains work, okay, rather than going into the neurodivergent kind of the way of thinking. So for instance, my brain is working, it feels like it's working 10, 20 times faster than everyone else. And it's always on the go, purely to try and see the challenge and then see a way around it. And I think I don't know whether because we learn differently. I don't know whether it's, I don't know any other way of learning, because, you know, I've had dyslexia all my life. I will have it throughout my whole life. But what I will say is that with the dyslexic mind is that we can start seeing ways around it, and we don't give ourselves credit for that. So when we solve a simple problem that seems simple from someone else, but it was difficult for us, we should start giving ourselves a little bit more credit for achieving those goals as well. So yeah, I do see it as a form of superpower.
So how do you do the swings from extreme focus to complete disinterest in learning a particular subject? Because it can be quite hard and then frustrating to keep concentrating, and then you start disliking it. So how do you manage to keep coming out of it?
I totally agree. And I think that's why school, for me, although I'm a massive advocate of education, and I firmly believe in it, even though I didn't have that educational side of it, I think it's very difficult to concentrate on something when you have no interest in it. And I think that's the element when we're pushed subjects. And I think it's that barrier when we see something and we think, oh my goodness, I've had an experience that's been bad. I'm not very good at that. I can't do that. Now, there are certain things that we need to do in schools, obviously, you know, English and maths and all these, you know, all these different things. But I think it's just trying to find a way, understand the pupil or the work colleague, of ways of trying to make it more engaging for them. Okay, so rather than straight away, if you were to give me a great big book and you said you needed to read this in a week, if I didn't have any tools to do it with, it's incredibly overwhelming. So I think if we can find ways around understanding and starting that discussion, okay, so why can't you do this? I'm losing interest because I find it difficult. It's frustrating. It upsets me. And I think if you can find ways around this, you're not going to be able to do it on everything, but it's just general. We do, as human beings, lose interest, I guess, when we're not really fully engaged in that. And I think that's why I started my own businesses, because I found them exciting and I was able to engage in parts what I'm good at. However, I do utilize people around me to do the jobs that I'm not so good at, accounting, all these other bits and pieces. So to answer your question is, if we can find it more engaging and help them with, say, more tools, and find out exactly why they're not engaged, why don't they like doing this certain topic or like doing these certain things, that I think that would really, really help with the individual.
That's really helpful. I think being engaged and creating new ways to be engaged is relevant.
Yeah.
So what kept you believing in yourself and continuing to chase your dreams despite the tough experience that you had in your childhood?
So I think, like I said before, it was kind of, to start off with, I guess it was that, to prove someone that I'm worthy, or to prove someone wrong. And I think as I kind of grew older, I realized that it's something that's ingrained. It just seems like it's just something that's ingrained in me. It's something that continuously sees the positive in people, the positive in other people, as in, situations, and always having that kind of, that's something to look forward to. And and I'm not saying it has to be holidays or anything else like this. It could just be a learning. It could be something that, if you can find something that excites you, and that engages you and interests you, then you start to broaden your mind. I struggle with reading all the time, but I try and read as many books as I can. I find it incredibly frustrating sometimes that I can't, but it's almost like I'm absorbing knowledge. And the more I can absorb knowledge and meet new people and push myself out of the comfort zones and do, frightening things, you then have that, you start to get that more positivity. It's like two camps, isn't it? It's where if you sit in this camp here and you're always struggling with and not positive on the other side. So
hello, can we hear you?
Just mute. Yes, Abhinav, just one sec.
So yeah, I would just say, just having that, I guess that positive mindset would really help.
Sure.
Thanks, Darren. So one more question that we got is, how do you deal with the isolation? It's you live in a different world, right? How does that feel, and how do you cope with that?
I totally get it, and it's more prevalent now than ever. With the current situation that we're in. I guess I've always classed myself as a bit of a loner, because I've always thought to myself, what sort of camp do I sit in? What kind of job should I sit in? What industry? What friends should I have? And that, I don't know if that's because of my dyslexia or my ADHD that's put me in this, but because I'm always kind of looking for new things to do, and I tend to work faster than other people in my mind. So I'm always kind of, I swap friends and surroundings quite a bit. Okay, so that's just from my own personal experience. How to deal with the isolation side of it, I would just say the biggest thing for me is forming a kind of a committee, I guess, of like-minded people. That's always been, and you get back what you put out. So you will naturally start gravitating to people that are on your level. So it's whether you're, think to yourself, when you wake up in the morning, are you a positive person or you're a negative person? If you can change it, because if you're continuously negative, and I'm not saying you have to be, but then you're always going to be bringing that kind of negativity side into it. So if you can start surrounding yourself, start think to yourself, who would I like to kind of speak to? Who would I like to kind of connect with? The internet has been, although for everything that the internet says, is bad, the internet has become a phenomenal thing to start connecting with other people. There's phenomenal groups out there. There's entrepreneurs, there's business, whatever sector of work that you're looking to go into, you can start speaking to those people, getting into groups, getting into conversations. The isolation, like I said, I think it was more prevalent when I was kind of growing up, because we didn't have the opportunity to jump online and speak to someone. So there was a huge amount of isolation for me, 5 years in a school where people didn't really understand me. But then I started to mix with people and started to talk to people and have that kind of element of companionship, I guess. So I would just say, just maybe write a list of like-minded people that you would like to, the career that you're going into, the job that you want, the friends that you want, and start being with like-minded people. And that's what I've done. It's really, I've done it in life, I've done it in business, I've done it in sports, martial arts, anything that I go into, that's helped me definitely for my mindset. I hope that helps.
Well, thank you, Darren. In fact, Gulshan has got a question. Do you use technology to help you with your day-to-day tasks?
Yeah, so I'm a little old school, if I'm honest. I do. I've got an incredible partner who helps with any emails that I write are all kind of proofread before they go out. It used to be down to social media. Every time I post on social media as well, I get that. But there are on the back here, I have an abundance of different tools, from reader pens, from scanning pens, from all these different texts that we're incredibly grateful that organizations give them to us to test out and try. I'm just trying the kind of a lot of different technology at the moment. But I find on a day-to-day basis that if you can find one that works for you, because not everyone's got someone that can proofread stuff. So what I do on a daily basis, I have someone who helps me physically, but I am trialing a few different technologies at the moment. It's difficult, I guess, because I'm in the mindset of I like the struggle, even though it's frustrating sometimes. But I like to think to myself, oh, actually, I can just do it and do it. I give you an example. I remember once I was trying to write an email and it took me around 55 minutes to write this email, and it was probably about that small, and all the words were moving around and it was really, really frustrating. But I had this kind of silliness where I'm thinking, I just need to get it done. I need to get it done. Why can't I do it? If that happens now, it's just trying to find ways of helping your dyslexia. So when the words start moving for me and I just know I'm not going to be able to do it, I shut the laptop down, I go off for a walk, and then I come back to it when I can. So there are loads of different technologies out there. There's some amazing things that you can just Google, and you can find the top 10 different technologies out there. And I would just say, just trial something that works for you. And if it does, go with it.
Yes, I think we have one more question. It says, can you give some pointers for those who are living with dyslexia and how to build their confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. Confidence is massive. It's massive because once you've got that belief that you can do something, then you start to do it. But you're only going to get the confidence by doing tiny little steps. Okay, so I've lived my life. I'm not saying everyone should, but I've lived my life kind of jumping out of my comfort zone, doing things that ridiculously scare me. And I mean, scare me in the sense of, talking in front of people or going onto a call or, starting a new business. It doesn't have to be huge steps. The best thing to do is just sit down with someone else, or pen, paper, whatever it is, or you can use your phone and you can speak into it. And just start thinking to yourself all the things that you have done. We concentrate so much on all the things that we can't do, and we're lack of confidence. If you actually start thinking to yourself, what have you done? What have you achieved? That will start giving you more of a positive element to start thinking, well, actually, what can I do more? And set yourself a little challenge on a daily basis or a weekly basis, just something that you think, I could never do that. And it doesn't have to be huge, just something. But get yourself in that positive, I watch a lot of motivational videos. I'm always looking at motivational quotes. I'm always trying to fill my mind with positivity. I personally stay away from the news because I try not to inject too much negativity. Yes, I know what's going on. I don't, I'm not, I'm mindful of what's going on. I take in what I need to know, and then I surround myself with this positive mindset. Now, I know life isn't always, rainbows and unicorns, and it's not always positive, but if I've noticed that my mood changes and the way that I act is if I absorb a lot of negative information as opposed to the positive information. So set yourself a couple of little goals. Start writing down what you have done, and give yourself some credit on what you have achieved. The fact that you're on here and you're listening to this is credit to you, because you could be doing something else. So it's just the small little wins every single day that you can do. That should help.
Well, thank you, Darren. In fact, we have with us today Ms. Priya Deshpande. She is the principal and director of the therapy department of the Society of Rehabilitation of Crippled Children. I think I'd like to speak to you. Huh?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's lovely. It was so inspiring to listen to you. And when you spoke about your school, I said, our children are so lucky to have them in our school where we understand them. And we have given them so much hope. And what you said, asking them, one thing that I've learned is the goals. Ask them to have small goals, because constantly we are giving them, I think, a bigger goals, as an institution, or as teachers, as educators, as therapists, we give them bigger goals. Yeah. So asking them to have, smaller goals and being very positive always.
Absolutely.
Being positive. And not getting so much negativity in your life. And what you said is so true. Very, very true.
Bless you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you so much. And it is true. The confidence you get from just those small goals. There was a little exercise that my old boss gave me many years ago. I won't go into the story because it's a very long story, so I'll make it very quick. He gave me this thing called he asked me to write on a piece of paper A, B, C, and D. And he said, every single day, I'd like you to write down. So A was for achievements, B was for benefit, C was for concerns, and D was for do next. Now, these, I didn't realize that these 4 letters made such an impact for my career, and it enabled me to really kind of flourish. And what he asked me to do on a daily basis is every single day, he said, write down something that you have achieved next to the A, and then what the benefit of that achievement was. And then any of the concerns that you've got rolling around in your head, just write a concern down. And then the most important thing was the do next. And this is where you take ownership of something. So you then say, okay, so I've got a concern that I don't know that. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to read about it? Are you going to Google it? Are you going to search somewhat? Are you going to, find these things out? the book, when I left my retail, I had books and books and books of all these A, B, C's and D's that I wrote down every single day, which enabled me whenever I was going to a promotion and I was sat in front of someone and they'd say, okay, so tell me why you should have this job, tell me what you've achieved, tell me some of the challenges you have. I could look at the A's and I could find that I achieved this. And then I could see that I was a problem solver by some of the concerns that I had and then the actions I took after. Those 4 letters I still do now. And it really does give me that kind of that positive mindset around just a simple exercise. There's loads of exercises out there, but that's been really, really great, really good for me.
So another question is, as siblings, peers, friends of people who have dyslexia, what are the simple things that we overlook that we could do different to be more empathic? Okay,
I would definitely say starting the conversation. Okay, that's the communication is the biggest thing that that's helped me. For example, it's knowing that dyslexia is not just about reading and writing. It's behavioral, it's the mindset, it's the confidence, it's so many different elements. So once you start saying, okay, that person's got dyslexia, they can't read or they can't write, this is that's some people's mindset. It's not just that, it goes a lot deeper, okay? Because if someone is finding a struggle to read, then there is anxiety there. There could be depression, looming because they feel depressed. The confidence could be low because they don't want to be singled out. Just, people might make fun or anything like this. So I would say starting the conversation, and also it helps the individual as well, because just because you have dyslexia or ADHD or dyspraxia, dyscalculia, not everyone is an expert on it. Okay, not everyone how you feel. I know how I feel. I've not got a doctorate in dyslexia or anything else like this, but I know from a personal experience how I feel and how I deal with things on a daily basis. But it wasn't until I started speaking to people like my partner and people around and how I felt and how I deal with things that it became more accepted and people understood more. So I definitely say start the conversation. And you know what? People will start learning more about it, and you'll start learning more yourself. It's the biggest thing I can say.
My question is, how do you sympathize with people with dyslexia, and how do you explain it to someone who has no idea what it is? Because a lot of times I've seen that people don't find what people with dyslexia go through real, moving, and it to some people it doesn't seem real, but it is an actual thing.
I totally get it. Anyone that has dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, ADHD, I find them incredibly inspirational, because I know, and you would, anyone that has it will know the daily struggles that they go through, but that the fact that they're still being able to do those things is so much credit. So I personally think I sympathize. I applaud them. I think it's absolutely, what they do is incredible. Explaining it to someone else that has no knowledge of dyslexia, I feel that's something that I've been doing, championed for many years now. And I won't stop until I start speaking to the business world, the educational side of it. We're now speaking to banks, we're speaking to HSBC. We did a big live in-house kind of seminar with them. And that just means, what that means is it's not a case of, or we're able to speak to those. We want to start the conversation, because if I said I have dyslexia to someone who has no knowledge of it, then they'll just go, okay, what's that? That's a reading thing, isn't it? Then you start the conversation. But if we can start, imagine how that conversation would open up if we went from the school side of it. So we could help and support an individual in school. They left school, they went to college or university, and they had the support for dyslexia. And then they went into the workplace and then still had the same level of support and knowledge and awareness. This conversation that we're having now, where you say, how would you approach someone with this? It would be a lot more easier. So I think this is something I've seen over the past 18 months that has got a lot broader, a lot more knowledgeable, and people are more understanding of it, but there's still so much more to go. I would just I personally think if we can try and bring the real life people with dyslexia and not just focus on the celebrities. I think the celebrities are great and they endorse dyslexia in a really, really great way. But I think the everyday person that deals with dyslexia, creating more stories, more awareness, could easily start relating to people and more. I hope that kind of helps. But I think again, it just comes around to starting the conversation.
Just, I think we'd like to know as parents, teachers, as we deal with, children who have dyslexia or adults who have dyslexia, what are the simple things that we can do to be more inclusive?
So I guess there's also, with regards to dyslexia as well, as soon as you know, sometimes it's not just dyslexia. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD. So for me, I know how best to work for me. So for instance, if I was to come, if I was needing to work somewhere, I would need some sort of quiet space. I carry my headphones with me every single where I go. And the reason for that is because at a certain point in the day, everything becomes overwhelming for me. The noise, the people, I just need some sort of space and some sort of, some quiet time. So what generally happens, I put some classical music on, and I engulf in that for kind of 10, 20 minutes. So think about someone at home. If someone comes home and they're in a kind of a noisier environment, or they can't concentrate, or is there a space that they can set up to kind of work in that environment so that they don't feel they don't feel overwhelmed within that. Starting the conversation short. I work in short bursts of work as well. This is probably why I can't work 9 till 5 within the work side of it. So if I can work in short spells, like 20 minutes, half an hour, then come back 20 minutes, half an hour, that works for me. I'm not saying it will work for every single individual, but if we can understand how best to get the best out of that person, and how they feel more at ease with that, I definitely say that's helped. And that's what I've learned over the years of dealing with my dyslexia. Like I said, I shut the laptop down when the words start moving around and I start feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I think it does come back to starting that conversation. It does come back to how best you can help that individual. This is a long. Sadly, it's like a long journey. But doing things like this and having these talks really kind of start helping. And I think it's just trying to engulf everyone else's experience of how they've helped as well, because we're all open to learning on here.
I think something that's coming out of this is as well, it's not just everyone fitting in one box, right? It's understanding that person as a person and just being supportive. So, yeah.
Completely. Absolutely. We say dyslexia, but it's, it's not just Darren. It's not dyslexia, it's Darren. It's everyone around it. It's that person behind it. Dyslexia shouldn't defy that person. It should be a case of just, it's something special about that individual. And yeah, I completely get what you're saying.
True. No, in fact, probably we've seen that people spill over that into everything else. So if you just can't read, they still won't let you play as a child. They still won't let you be part of anything. And I think that's something that needs to change, because that's just one part of your life. It doesn't mean that you can't do other things and you can't be part of any thing. I think people are in such a race at times they want their children to associate with certain people. They want everything in that manner. And therefore, the isolation just continues to keep growing. So yes, that's wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? Either you can ask it, or you can put it in the chat box.
There's one more question about whether meditation helps. Do you?
So I've got kind of into meditation quite big over the past sort of 3 years, and it helps for me. And the reason it helps definitely with my ADHD, because it allows me to switch on anything, because my brain is always on, and it's always working, as in continuously. It feels like it's 100 miles an hour. It's like a motor car. So any form of meditation that you can kind of start relaxing your mind and your thoughts, then I would definitely say it works for me, definitely, because it almost allows an area of calm. So I would, if you're new to meditation, then it can, especially if you've got dyslexia, especially with ADHD element, it can be quite hard to get into. But like anything, if you dedicate a bit of time to it, I definitely say it's worked for me personally.
Sure. I think Janak has something to say. He said, thank you so much for sharing your story. It is truly an inspirational story. Given that you were diagnosed so late in life, do you believe that living all those years without knowing built grit, or do you wish you were diagnosed earlier?
So I'm kind of torn with this with this side of it, because I think being diagnosed later helped me understand the struggles that I went through before, but I never got into that stage where I just kind of lent on the fact that I had dyslexia, so I can't do that. So I'm torn in these ideas, because had I known I had dyslexia, then maybe I might have got some more support in school, which may have put me down a different journey. I don't know. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm grateful that I finally found out that I had dyslexia, which has now put me on this journey to help others understand more. So I'm at peace where I am now. But I would say, on the flip side, if we can find more diagnosis in people or understand dyslexia from an earlier age, so that children don't have to struggle like I did, then that would be a real blessing, I think.
Sure. Thank you so much. Anybody else would like to go? I think Prakash has a question. Do you think medication helps?
I can't really. Again, with regards to dyslexia or ADHD, I've not had any medication to help with the dyslexia or the ADHD. I did have medication to help with the depression, but I'd probably just have to say you'd have to consult a doctor on those elements. I'm not au fait with. I know that there are lots of different medications out there that the doctor can help you with. But I would definitely say if it's to a point where you feel you need to, you need to speak to someone, then they would be definitely best suited with those elements. Sorry if that helps.
Sure. No, I think thank you so much for this one session. I'm just waiting to see if anybody else has any further questions, or then we can.
No, that's great. It's been great, and hopefully what this shows is that there out of adversity there is there is an element where we can achieve some amazing things. But it is, for me, I've learned, if we can do it all together and unite, and it makes things so much better. There are so many people out there that's struggling with dyslexia and trying to do everything on their own. But there is an amazing community out there that can support and help.
Sure.
It's very nice. It's very nice that you're sharing your experiences with so many 70,000 children here, and you're going on so many platforms. It is like we are paying the rent, the kindness rent being on the universe. It's kind of spreading awareness, talking about your experience. One has to be bold, and one has to be really, you have to feel it there. I can see that you feel it, that I need to share my experience, and which the other children will gain something. Children, people, parents, teachers. It's the rent, the kindness rent that we're paying being staying on this universe. That's what I feel.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. I just feel that I mean, in the UK alone, we're very blessed in the sense that we've got so many organizations. And in America, there's so many organizations, but in the UK, I mean, it's, I think someone's said use the phrase dyslexia wars or something, because there's so many different organizations. And, I've worked with so many and they're fantastic. I just feel for me, if we could just imagine if we could unite these organizations as one, and then, and then kind of help. And I think that's one of the things I got involved with the British Dyslexia Association, and I saw the amazing work they're doing in the UK, but I wanted to kind of think of this as a global thing of how to help and support.
We're doing that. Maharashtra Dyslexia Association, we often have sessions with the British and the International Dyslexia Association. So we were invited, and the 1 year which before the Oregon, where you went Portland, before that
Yes.
I had attended. It was very nice.
Yes.
So we do.
No. You've got a phenomenal organization, and it was just it's for me. It's amazing to play a small part in some of the amazing work that everyone's doing. So yeah, I'm always happy to help.
I think what we meet, our children, some of our children, that the anger or anxiety or I think mostly it's anger. Why me? That if it is little bit taken away from them,
yeah, I totally get it.
There'll be peace. There'll be peace within themselves, I feel, and we need to achieve that.
Yeah, the anxiety, it kind of, I almost don't know dyslexia and ADHD without anxiety, if I'm honest, and I think it comes in an understanding. Do I control my anxiety still today? Not always. Are there elements of doubt that creep up on me? Yes, and all these things, and so I'm not saying I'm definitely the finished article within that element, but I think I choose to what thoughts I can kind of put in and how I can kind of help in that. But the anxiety, yeah, I mean, just before this call, I mean, I'm walking around the house. It was 10 a.m. here, and we come on at 10:30, and I'm walking around thinking I'm going to be late. Is it going to be okay? Is my screen going to do this? Is this? About 1,000 things from my mind, and that nervous. Even though I've spoken to tens of thousands of people, it's just. I think that's a good thing in some sense. It's because you care, because you want to make sure it's right. So sometimes anxiety can't always be the bad element. It can always be that excitement. Well.
Absolutely.
Can't hear. Parveen. Unmute.
Sorry, my dog got barking and I had to mute it. Otherwise,
okay.
Mine did that the other day. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine.
Chandni, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Well, I think thank you so much, Darren. I think, this has been amazing and so straight from the heart. I think the biggest take back from me has been that, of course, there's all of these things we need to think about, but I think at the crux is just understanding a person for who they are, regardless of these boxes and labels. And yeah, thanks for your time. And we're so grateful to be a part of this.
Oh, bless you. Thank you guys. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
So much, Darren. In fact, it's been really wonderful to have you here.
Okay, I think Rocky is taking it away.
we all get that. I've had that many a times on many Zoom things with my dog as well. So don't worry.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much indeed for everything.
Bye.
And I will see you soon. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.